We're back again. And I just have to I have to be guilty because I'm kind of settling in and making sure that I'm back up in this Africa Unfocused mode. Because to be honest, it's been such a hot summer week. It's been like crazy. And I was sitting and having dinner in the garden, trying to take on all of this sunshine on on this day. Where are we? Almost mid-August, 9th of August, and we're here back again. It would be unfair if I didn't have a show and come back with the Let's Chat Africa folks. So hello everyone. I am your host, Augustine Austin, and we're back again on this Africa on Focus mode, as we are to call it. And today we have a special topic. Some few weeks ago, we touched on, is it Black people, the issues surrounding Black people, and those things. And I had a panel of panelists with me that took on the discussion, and it went so many directions. And I was like, you know what? I have to make sure that I take this conversation up again. And here we are. So it's just a bit past 8 p.m., 1 minute past 8 p.m., coming to you live from the city of Amsterdam, still on lockdown mode. And that is because we will have very soon a perfect announcement because High Radio Studios, we have a wonderful, lovely, renewed location and things. So we'll be coming back with MC Gary. We will be back on Thursdays. Akwantu Munsem. We have Kendi, who will be back on the show. Who else do we have? We have our Afrobeat show on Saturday afternoon. And plus, obviously, we'll be airing from the studio again. That's Africa on Focus. And that will be me. So look out for that. So we're almost in closing the season. We're just going to go back for a break, just one more episode, and then we're going to go come back full force in September, and then we'll be talking on many things. Also, Women About Business is going to have its own segment on every Tuesday afternoon, which was an announcement that we made last week. So make sure that you look out for that. Anyway, coming to you live from the city of Amsterdam, just past 8 p.m. Here, it's a hot summer day. I really want to know from wherever that you are, how is it going? How is it from your end? Where are you listening from? Because I would really like to know. If you're on the YouTube channel or if you're somewhere else, make sure that you spread the word, you subscribe to our channel, Africa Unfocused. If you're listening on Facebook, make sure that you share, repost that the conversation is going to come on. Wherever you are, feel free to join in. And also let me know from which city you are listening from. Anyway, this is High Radio, the voice of the next generation. And every Sunday, I get to take you to talk to different African people who can help us create success for ourselves, that can, help us to create impact and so much more. So that is really what we are here for today. Anyway, let's talk about what's going on in our world. I'm just going to ensure and check if I can bring on Johnny and then bring on the rest of the panelists and see where our heads are at. And I promise not to keep it too long because this type of weather in the Netherlands is like rare. For some reason, the last 2 years, hot summer days have been popping up for some way. It will just be full on 1 week above 30 degrees. I don't know what that, but it's rare. So taking on the moment to enjoy. Let me see if I can get Johnny on and see where his head is at. Hey, Johnny, how are you?
Hi, hello. I'm fine. How are
I'm good. I'm good. You're like looking at the screen like, wow, it's good to be back.
you? It's been a feels like yeah, it's been a while, but hey,
I know, right?
been
How have
good.
you
It's
been?
been good. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm still
Right.
alive.
Yeah,
People actually
that's
forget that Corona thing is going on, but yeah, there's still coronavirus, people.
it is. I know, right? We were talking last time about how people are pretending as if, this never happened or anything.
Yeah, no,
I
still
still
out there.
find that.
Hmm.
I
But
still
yeah,
believe that people are just pretending and they're ignoring the reality as it is. COVID is still real. And even here, they're saying that the cases are rising up here in the Netherlands.
yeah, they they have to be very careful. Of course, they can't
Yeah,
you know fully go. Hey, everyone can do whatever they want. Of course, with the
yeah,
with the education system coming back mid August or end of August. So yeah, it's interesting to see how they're going to or trying to manage that.
yeah.
But yeah,
It's pretty safe to say that for the rest of the year, this online type of activities will be very much part of, you know, the educational system, I think.
if what if all
I think that this online use and this online
oh
presence, the Zoom and whatever, it's going to be part of our normal the rest of the year.
yeah yeah. I mean in school probably maybe less, but in business definitely. Yeah, in
Yeah,
business definitely, but in school I think they trying to have things go back to normal as much as they
yeah,
can for now. Why? Because like the school
hmm,
system isn't set up for whatever remote teachings and all this kind of stuff. So they have to
yeah,
go back to the regular way of teaching, and then maybe perhaps next year they might have better solutions. But it's hard because you have primary school, universities, and etc. I understand, especially with master's program, they can do it. They can adapt more easily. But
yeah.
with high school, um, primary school, it's going to be very yeah, it's going to be very difficult.
And and how has it been for you? Do you expect your lectures and everything to go on online?
Um, but I'm through with my lectures now. Luckily, no lectures anymore. Um, Working on
Okay,
my thesis, and that's about it.
so
I
you're
I do have to do some interviews for my research. So, but what we're going to do have that done online anyway, so that's fine. I don't have to meet them
right,
in person.
right. So you're pretty much free. You're just
I'm set. Mhm. I am set.
what a wonderful reality. So this week, in a few minutes we'll be starting with Let's Chat Africa. I think the last time when we had it, which was gosh, almost 2 months ago, was a heated discussion that
Mhm.
went on. That could have gone on for like hours if it wasn't for time's sake. But first, just to go into a bit of new flash. Well, one that's been trending online. I know online is not so much your thing, but Black is King. What do you think?
Oh, that the Black is King Beyonce thing. I actually thought she had brought out new music, but apparently it's just a new video for old music that she had done, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuss is about. I don't get it.
As a
What's
Pan
going on?
African, you don't.
No, I've seen. I haven't watched it. I know of it, but I don't know what the whole deal is. Like, why is it such a big deal? Maybe
Yeah,
you can enlighten me on this.
yeah, yeah, sure, definitely, definitely. Okay, so basically, this whole year has been about Black Lives Matter and things like that,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
supporting Black businesses and stuff. Well, that aside, Beyonce just recently launched the visuals of an already released album,
Hmm.
which was
Hmm.
inspired by Lion King, you know, and the visuals really showcase all kinds of African artists in its full place. So both recording artists, visual artists, dancers, all kinds of things, right? And you as viewing it for the first time, it takes you starting from, let's say, where does it even start? I think somewhere in Nigeria. It takes you through Ghana, his collaboration with Shatawale and all of those stuff. And it
Right.
takes you to South Africa. So it brings you to a whole set of videos that really highlight what Black people are about. So
Mm-hmm.
either the video showcase a bit of history, either the video showcase a bit of Black pride, as in a sense of where African Americans have come, and their achievements and things. And it's based on where it starts, based on just like the story of Moses, a baby that is by his mother put on, a river to go through life and take on life. And then that child grows up and then goes through all of these different scenarios that showcase Africa really in its full sense, fully in art and everything. And then it ends up, I think the boy ends up being Jay-Z or whatever, something like that.
Mm. So wait, it's a
So
movie, or how long is this video?
it's about an hour and a half compilation
Ah,
of videos. Yeah.
oh,
So
now
that
I
whole
get it.
movie takes you through all of the records that,
Oh,
are on that album. Yeah.
okay, okay. I thought it was just a video clip, just 4 minutes.
No, it wasn't.
Um, it was just, oh, okay. Then I have to see it. Okay, then I really have to see it.
Yeah,
So wait,
so
is it a movie, or what is it classified as?
yeah, it's
Is
classified
it
as a movie,
okay?
exclusively aired on Disney Plus. But the
Oh,
movie um, is also a compilation of all of the videos of that, of that album. So as you watch it,
hmm.
it takes you through the story, but you get to see all of the videos that come into place. And the video part that is already launched outside is the one with Shatawale, where Ghanaians are going crazy over.
Ah,
So
ah.
basically that's it. So a lot, of commotion have come around it. People feel like it's really that time of highlighting Black excellence, reminding Black people where they should be proud of, and all of
Hmm.
those things. So a lot of people are taking that into discussions, as in like, okay, is Beyonce properly contributing to highlighting Africa, as it should.
Mm. And what do you think?
I'm still
Yes.
not getting the reaction out of you. For me personally, I really love the collaboration bits because she actually collaborates with true, also Ghanaian creatives, artists, and all of that, and giving them really a place to showcase what Africa is really about. Um,
Hmm.
some people might criticize it and say that, it showcases Africa as really living in trees and all of that. I don't think
Mm.
it really does that so much. Some people might also criticize it as, it doesn't showcase talent coming from Eastern Africa, which is true. Eastern
Mm.
Africa is not really highlighted. But regarding in the fact that, West Africa is really being highlighted the most as in terms of arts and entertainment, I do get where she would focus on Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm pretty much still living my life. I'm still it hasn't changed my lifestyle or anything. But
Mm.
I think it's cool. I'm super proud that a Ghanaian talent like Shatawale, gets to be exposed on like an international
Mm.
platform. And I hope that Shatawale's dreams as an artist come true. Like, that's it.
I'm sure there are some Ghanaians who feel a certain way about Shatawale, and they're like, why is it Shatawale that has to get this kind of platform or shine? Because
Sure.
the character of Shatawale. But all in all, he's still doing it for Ghana and representing Ghana. So it's
Yeah.
on that note, yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder, the panel which we will start in a bit, does this
Hmm.
contribute to the black excellence that we're looking for? Some people would debate that it does. Some people would say that we still have a long way to go. But I'm curious what our fellow panelists have to say about
Hmm.
that.
So
Um,
am I.
So yeah, that was a bit about Black is King. I hope I
Like,
was able to give you a sort of an idea on what that means.
yeah, you definitely have. And we see being that it's an hour long, 1 hour and
Yeah,
longer, I might actually, yeah, I will look for it. But it's only what premiered on Disney Plus. Well, I
it's
mean,
only yeah. So you have to find somebody in your surrounding who has
is
an
it Disney?
account to
Oh, then it's
to
gonna stay
Disney
on
Plus.
Disney Plus. That's a bummer. But I might find one of those websites where they they might have the video and watch it online. But yeah, I have to
Right,
see it. Yeah.
right. Okay, so before we get into this, Let's Chat Africa, we have our other panelists to join in. Shout out to, I think, one of the most, do they call that critically acclaimed or the most notorious listener? I just want to give a shout out to Richie AT, who is commenting on the faces that he would like to see on Let's Chat Africa. Richie, I am challenging you to come on the show for the next discussion so that we could do something about your suggestion that you were giving. Shout out to you, to Richie 80, who says, sometimes your audiences get tired of familiar faces, so spice this program for us. Why? And yeah, Richie, come and join the group. Thank you. Um, well, let's start up with this discussion and get things going. Let's invite Liz to have its take on what we're going to talk about. Last time, obviously, we had a special guest coming in to talk to us because we were right in the center of this Black Lives Matters.
Yeah.
I think it was the highlight of this movement in the Netherlands, you know, where obviously the unpleasant occurrence with George Floyd caused people around the world to protest and really take a look at ourselves and question, okay, when is this finally this type of persecution towards Black people finally going to end? And I took that upon ourselves to talk to how can we make sure that the changes that we are looking for can be implemented
Hmm.
rightfully. And that is one of the topics that we touched on. And today, at the part two of this conversation, I think that it's good to take this on and to look at Black Lives Matter movement now, global systematic changes, and what Black excellence really means to global Africans, since this has also been highlighted online due to the Black is King and other movements, shall I say it. Let's invite Liz to come on and join us on this kitchen, and let's take it from there. Hey, Liz, how are
Hi,
you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Evening, evening. We
I'm
are fine.
good. Good,
Fine.
good to see you glowing. You just have this summer glow.
Glowing or burnt? It's so hot. I come from a Caribbean island and I'm still hot. So no, this is
Right.
I can't. I don't know what happened because it was raining and then the next day it was like, oh, you wanted sun? Now I can give
Yeah.
you sun.
Yeah. So even at that, they say that this type of heat is different from the island heat.
Yeah, no, it's way different. I think on the island there's like this breeze that comes from the sea that like balances it out, I guess, because it's not this hot. It's the same degrees, 31, 32, but it's not this hot.
Right. Right. It's always some type of adapting that we
Yeah,
have to do once we take on the Netherlands heat.
yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
let me ask you, did you get anything from the Blackest King?
I didn't I watched some of the scenes. I didn't finish. It's on my schedule to watch. Um but I found it pretty interesting. I like I'm a personal fan of like visuals of African spirituality.
Yeah,
So I really liked that I saw a lot of that different types of spirituality in there. Um, I usually like when Beyonce releases some visuals because it's always like Parkwood, that company. It's very creative and very like,
Yeah.
they did their research. For me, because as a person from the diaspora, for me it's, I think there was some critique about it, that it's not, it's very like, it picks and chooses which culture, which
Yeah.
elements it wants from the African culture. But for
Yeah.
me, from the diaspora, that's like something that is so inherent to us, because that's what we have. We don't have like whole stories. We just pick and choose what remained. So
Yeah.
I guess, for in my perspective, that was like so awesome, because I got different perspective, different like viewpoints from different regions.
Mhm.
But I understand at the same time the discussions that people were not very happy that she just made it seem as if it was like just a superficial African culture, when all these things are deep rooted into regional
Yeah.
cultures and regional heritage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a fan of Beyonce, especially recently. I'm still a fan.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And did you feel that it contributed to the overall image that people have of Africans?
Um, I think so. Maybe. I think the people that I hang out with are I am very conscious of what Africa is and what Africa can offer. Like, I studied African studies for my bachelor, so most of
Yeah.
the friends that I have actually have a very in depth view of Africa. Um, but in like that, outside of that bubble, um, I've seen on Instagram some people posting certain things, or people having like, oh, let's have something to do with Africa, which is very superficial, like having an African party, which is so
Yeah.
superficial. But maybe 5 years ago or 2 years ago, they would have never done that, because they would like, why
Mhm.
why would you do that? So maybe it's like an introduction for um its introduction, let's say it like that.
Right. I would say that. So the reason I bring on that topic, because not just people being a fan of hers or any of that. But the reason I'm bringing on this topic is because a lot of people would view it as, something that finally pushes Africans to the forefront as what they should be. And this became debatable because, from one other angle, people would say that, hey, you know what, it doesn't cover any culture from Eastern countries. People still wouldn't know what it really means to be African. They would still not be fully educated on what their heritage is, in a sense, if whether they're African or not. They would still debate and say, it lacks a bit of, let's just say, content. But at the same time, it's still entertainment. They probably just have a few minutes to push all of their information in, which makes it quite hard to educate the whole world fully about what it means to be African. So I would really like to know from both of you, and not just this case of the Black is King theme, but do you think that once entertainment is involved with a bit of history, such as the Black Panther, the Black is King, and such, do you think this contributes to the African identity that global Africans should really have? What do you think, Johnny?
Um, well, this discussion we had when we were doing the our first panel, when we were doing the
Yeah,
Afro beats, Afro this. Is this a hype? And what are the what do we expect from it? Is it
yeah,
something that's going to stick and whatnot? And I think, I mean, one of the things we did say was, even though a hype is something temporary, so in a sense,
yeah,
we shouldn't expect a lot from a hype. However, the good thing or the positive thing is the fact that it's giving Africans or and others the courage to claim or to be themselves in public. So,
mhm,
like Liz just said, let's throw an African party. 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case, but now with with these type of music videos and etc., or the Afro dance in the scene like that, hey, African parties are now look at what Coachella, um,
Right.
the one they did in Afro Nation. That wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago, but it's possible now. Why? Because Afro dance, or these the global exposure of African entertainment businesses or endeavors have become, let's say, common. It's more in the front, whether it was through the clothing, the ashikis, whether it was through the music, the dance, azonto,
Yeah.
etc., which are still hypes. Again, they remain hypes. And of course, we also discussed that it doesn't equal result to equity. It doesn't result to financial benefits for Africans necessarily. However,
Right.
it does have other positives, social positives, and also individual, let's say, positives, which remains. So it's a thing. Where do you focus on? Because yes, it does have a lot of positive that it brings along with it. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, there are also some positive results that we should be getting, but are not getting. Why? Because it's simply a hype, or it's simply on entertainment level.
Yeah. I agree to a certain degree. I think culture is not everything. I think if we only have culture, then it's gonna be like very superficial, and it's gonna be picking and choosing. Just I choose when it's funny, when it's cool, when I want to dance, I just enter it, and when I don't want to do that anymore, and exit. So I think does
Yeah.
this rise of these cultural representations create access to like Africa in a political view, Africa in a technological view, innovative view. I think that that's the only way in order to assure that people have a connection with Africa in itself. But I think one thing that is different from the Beyonce video is one of the benefits of culture is that it can create identity. If someone is identifies themselves with a region or a element or whatever, that is different, because then if it's part of my identity, I
Yeah.
am concerned with its politics, I'm concerned with its economics, I'm connected to it. And I think by saying black is king and black is Africa, you're connecting your blackness with
Yeah.
Africa, so it's not just culture anymore, it's identity. And it doesn't happen very often in culture that um, culture or music or TV is represented in a way that of belonging, of like this is who I am. So it varies from what type of culture we are seeing, but it has to be
Mhm.
beyond just entertainment. It has to be something that allows us to be curious of. For example, there's some African Americans going back to Ghana a lot, not a lot, but there is a growing trend of African Americans going back to Ghana, investing in Ghana,
Yeah.
creating businesses in Ghana. And I think that only happens, I don't think it happens because of culture. I think it happens because of identity. They identify themselves somehow with Ghana, even though they've never been, even though sometimes they don't even have a, they don't even know if they have a direct connection. So I think culture is a step, but it's just one step from multiples.
Yeah. Well said. And one of the questions that I recently had from someone was that, Black consciousness. Could you describe this in your own words? And what do you think like moments like this in entertainment does to Black consciousness? Is Black consciousness important for every Black person, or does it just relate to people that identify as African? How would you best describe that?
I think that's a great question. Um,
Mm.
I for me, what I would define Black consciousness as is the conscious ability to define what Blackness means to you. Because since we grow up, we Blackness has been defined by our institutions, by our teachers, by the TV, and we don't get to say, okay, this is who I am, or this is what this means to me, and this is what it can be. And consciousness is a process of unlearning a lot of those systematic theories of what Blackness is, and allowing a space where you can define Blackness in a way that fits you, fits who you are, and fits your identity. And I think that's important for everybody. You need to be able to
Yeah.
be comfortable with who you are and beyond what everybody else tells you that you are. And I think that understanding Black consciousness and how it connects with Africa, for me personally, allows for more autonomy, in the sense that, okay, if I see Africa connected with my identity, that shifts the way that I navigate this world, that shifts the way that I connect with people. So I'm not just from the Caribbean or from this island, but I connect with Africa in a way that is more complex, more diverse, and having
Yeah.
the ability, the consciousness to be able to do that, I think that is transformative for me as an individual, but also for my contribution to Africa in itself.
Yeah. What about you, Donnie? Because I think this is like a sensitive topic to you as a true Pan African. Black consciousness. What would you define it as?
Yeah. Actually, I think, yeah, exactly how Les defined it. So, the ability um, to be conscious of that which you want to identify by or connect that with Africa. But I was thinking more about the term why Black consciousness. But she as she connected that with Africa, I was like, okay, that makes sense. So it's African consciousness. So it's been becoming aware of that African element of your life. But specifically for me, or think where I would differ with what would a white person define white consciousness to be um,
Yeah.
as. And what I just came up with is then, well, Black consciousness will then be, in my mind, the realization or becoming awake, or the awakening of an individual to the place. So if he's within the group of Blacks, of which that group, let's say, is in that system, of the place of that group in the system. So that would mean, like, for Black consciousness, would mean linking back to African. So African conscious would mean that becoming aware of where the African society or the African group is in the system of
Mm-hmm.
society. So then the white consciousness will also mean, for a white person, becoming aware of where the white group is within the society. So either at the top or at the bottom. Why is this important? Because this is why this whole issue is important. It's not the fact that
Mm-hmm.
we are not aware of ourselves. No, but it's the fact that we are not aware of where we are positioned as a group within the society. So that's, for me, then, like, Black consciousness or African consciousness. So it has to do, for me, I have to relate it to the system or to society, and also the hierarchical structure of it. I don't know
Okay.
if that
So
makes sense.
if you associate it that way, as in like the position within a system, isn't it then a bit like conditional, as in terms of where you are? Could you explain
Right,
that a bit
exactly.
more?
So yeah, so that's right. So that should be if done properly, then it should be, yeah, it should be different. So meaning that a black consciousness for someone in the United States could be different than black consciousness for someone in the Netherlands or in Ghana or in Australia or whatnot. But here's the funny thing. You
Okay.
will realize that wherever you are on the world, like Dr. Umar said, wherever you are on the world, you will realize that the black people, no matter which society they are in, are always on the same place. Where
Mm-hmm.
that is, I think we all know what place that is. So, in that case, hey, it won't be, it will not be different, but maybe, we are able to create different societies or different realities for black people.
Liz, I see you. You almost nodding.
I don't really agree. Um, I don't think consciousness is about understanding where we are on the totem pole. I think that
Yeah.
understanding is like very clear. Like there was a video I watched a few weeks ago about this boy. He was playing in his own yard in the US and he was
Yeah.
shooting some hoops and then he saw a cop car. So he just stopped and he went and hid behind the car in his yard. He just hid, and when the cops
Yeah.
he kept going, he just continued playing as if nothing happened. Like he was conscious. He was a boy, but he was conscious of the danger of who he was and like the society in that society. We know, even sometimes we can't articulate it. Sometimes we don't know how to put it pinpointed, but we know how what blackness means in this society. Consciousness is not about understanding where we stand. Consciousness is about redefining who we are. We have to know who
Yeah.
we are. We have to know how do we understand blackness beyond white supremacy. How do we understand blackness beyond inferiority? That is what consciousness is. It's consciousness is about empowerment. You don't have to. You don't feel empowered by saying like, oh, I'm like less. I know that I'm less as a black woman. My chances um, of employment with a white man is lower. Like statistically, that's true. I know that. I understand that. But empowerment is just knowing
Mm-hmm.
my capabilities of as a black woman. Like, why do people come up with black girl magic and what all these things?
Yeah.
Those are consciousness. Having the ability to redefine yourself beyond what is here. And I honestly, I don't like Umar Johnson that much. So I don't not that much. I don't like him at all.
Why not?
No, I don't. I I honestly think that
It's too superficial.
it's not about superficial. It's just um, if you're for black people, you should be for all black people. If you stand for black history, you should stand for all
Mm-hmm.
black history. You cannot talk about black African spirituality and skip elements of it that you don't find that don't combine with your ideology. He picks and chooses what he wants, and I don't think that's very disrespectful for me.
Well,
Like for
that's
me
Mm-hmm.
the
as a
same.
person, I
That's
don't
the
like.
same with Black is King,
But there's a
Is it?
difference between
right?
okay, this is what I want to highlight as beautiful, and saying like this is bad, this blackness is bad, even though historically, culturally, there has been evidence of this in history. There's a difference.
Mm.
Highlighting something as something beautiful and dismissing something as bad is different. I don't like that. I don't like him for that. But that's I don't like his idea of, I don't know. Never mind him. But I just think that consciousness is a form of empowerment. It is about people coming together and sitting and finding connections. And
Well, like you said, we already know Black people. We know our place in society, right? But the problem is we don't know how it operates.
I know exactly how this system operates. I know
Like
exactly
you're conscious to a level.
if I'm going
You're
to a
conscious to
job,
a
I
degree.
know what I have to do with my hair. And this is not something that I found out because I go to university. If I'm going to a job interview, I know what I have to do with my hair in order to be more appealing. I know how I have
Yeah.
to hide my Caribbean accent in order to speak in someone that is more appeasing. We know how to navigate the system. The issue is
No,
that we don't want to navigate the system anymore. We want to break it. We want to create new systems that are for
no,
us.
not
And
navigate through the system, but understanding how the system operates, understanding why we are at the bottom, or understanding why Black consciousness, as you say, its empowerment is important. Because I mean, like, would you say white consciousness is important as much as Black consciousness?
What do you define as consciousness?
I'm the same as I said with, so I had to look, or let's say think about why, what is white consciousness, and then also, create my definition for Black consciousness
Mm-hmm.
based upon the same, how do you say, parameters or criteria. And that's
Yeah.
how I came up with the fact that you do have to look at society and also see the position and um, understand how that operates. So then the whites will also be like, hey, okay, so this is what white means in this society, and how does it actually work? So you have to look at what are the privileges that we get as white. How does do those things work? Other than that, I mean, but we can go with your definition. It's empowerment. So then, what would be white consciousness with empowerment?
Okay, so let me just say this from the bat. First, for me, I don't define blackness in connection to whiteness. I don't say, oh, if I define it in the black term, I should also define it in the white term. Whiteness does not matter to me. Whiteness have had 400 years, 500 years of
I
shaping
agree.
itself, as connecting, as building itself in institutions, in history books. It has its time. It has had its time. White empowerment, white consciousness is the fact that we learn about Second World War and we don't learn about the transatlantic slave trade. White empowerment is that we know Napoleon, but we don't know Tula. That is white consciousness is oppressing us. It doesn't matter what the ability for them to know this reality. Like white consciousness is the ability for them to, let's say, connected to define themselves outside of the system and build a way to identify themselves beyond privilege and beyond like oppression. But for me, that doesn't matter. I don't
Yeah.
care what white people do. For me, it is about black consciousness. For me, it's about us building our own systems, us empowering ourselves. There's people that are um, have the idea that, oh, I want to join like politics in Europe. I want to join these organizations and I want to work with white people in order to transform their way of seeing themselves. That's awesome. I'm not that type of person. I do not care about what white consciousness means. I care about how we define ourselves. And from that point on, I define the practices that I practice. So if I define black consciousness, I don't be like, oh, but I should define white consciousness as well. That doesn't matter. If I know
Yeah.
what black consciousness is, I'm like, great, let's move on. Next, what's next? What's next that is black?
Right.
I don't. For me, that's not my calling. Let's say, it doesn't matter. It's not
That's a
relevant.
very clear description. So I have a question for you, Johnny. But before that, I just want to give a shout out to Richie At, who's probably one of our top commentators as it comes to our conversations on Let's Chat Africa. For those of you who just tuned in, welcome on for Amsterdam. That is on this hot summer day. That you took the time out to come and listen to our discussion at this moment. But we talk about hashtag Black Excellence, what this really means, and how can we push this forward into specific action points, how we can empower our community, how we can change the way we operate. And one of the things that we're talking about is a very strong question was even asked to me by a renowned Black politician here in the Netherlands. She asked me, what is Black consciousness to you? Before we're going to go more into that, again, welcome. Shout out to everybody that is listening through our YouTube channel and also on our Facebook page. I just briefly would like to look at what Richie At is commenting. Shout out to you for taking the time out to comment. One of the things that Richie is commenting is Black or African consciousness is about empowerment indeed and truly living the embedded values that make us unique to this world. You know what? I was just going to ask, especially you, Johnny, that because my answer to that question was, you know what, Black consciousness is a bit about, or overall about recognizing where you're from, where you're going, and understanding the added value that you should make in every facet of life, whether that be economic, social, and so forth. Um,
Yeah, but how,
why isn't that like a strong element of your definition, but
right.
rather the system and position that we are in
Well,
this current environment?
because what you just said is an individual consciousness. Is this where you who you are, where you are, and where you're trying to go? That's for every race, for every individual, in every group. It's not specifically to Africans or to Black people only. Indians should have the same mentality. Chinese people have the same mentality. Pakistanis, Australians, Surinamers,
Hmm.
so that's an individual thing. But so that's why I leave that to the side for for if it's let's say in individual things. Like lately I've been thinking a lot about this individualistic versus collectivistic or nationalistic views, and I found that in many discourses, and a lot of discourses don't let's say go they don't improve or they don't progress, like they don't result to real actions and etc., simply because there is this mixture, or the line between individual attempt or individual terms cannot be clearly separated from the collectivistic terms and collectivistic attempts. So for instance, the definition you just gave, for me, that is for an individual person, and that's an individual pursuit of life, whatever your creed, whatever your race, whatever your nationality is, right? But if we have to look at the collectivistic, so the African consciousness or the Black consciousness, then there has to be some other, either a denominator or some other component element attached to it that clearly separates what that white is or what that um, Asian is from what is African. And for me, that that is the position in society within which we live in due to racism. That's why I
But
link it. But if not, but maybe it's only me that's thinking this way. So I want to hear what Liz says about that.
I think it's interesting. I can see your point in the sense that I do think that consciousness should be achieved by all these groups. But for me, again, I don't care about them, and it's not like in a oh, I don't care about them, but it's like they're not my priority. My priority is Black consciousness, and understanding where we come from and who we are and identity. Once you start, for me, I did my thesis on African spirituality in the Caribbean, and I am obsessed with African spirituality because African spirituality connects with politics, it connects with history, it connects with economics, gender, race, sexuality. Everything is connected back to African spirituality. And
yeah,
if you see Black consciousness in its center, like if you look historically, it connects you to the collective. It is an individual
yeah,
work that connects you to the collective. If you see African spirituality, there are three elements that are essential to, okay, let's say West African spirituality, because that's basically what I studied. It is ancestors. Ancestors connect you to the past. It is land and the soil that connects you to the present. And it is rituals, and rituals connect you to the future. It is this practice that you have to connect as you as individuals, but it
mhm,
connects you back to your community. That consciousness that sends us back to community, always sends us back to community. And understanding Black consciousness is understanding that me as an individual, I have to do the work. I have to connect back to the past, to my ancestors, to my history, to my legacy, but I also
right,
have to connect with my community, because that once you start realizing who you are, what blackness is, and what blackness means, and how it evolves, it it is this mixture of like your individual work with this communal identity, because it draws you back to community, and it draws you back to the spiritual community, and it draws you back to like the physical community. Like, again, consciousness, black consciousness, because I assume that if you look at like Chinese consciousness, if you look at their history and their evolution, maybe that will lead to something else. But in black consciousness, understanding what blackness means, it I directly sends you to community, because everywhere you
But
go is
Chinese
community.
consciousness probably will send you to their community as
Yeah,
well,
probably, but
right?
I don't care. That's the thing.
But
I'm focused on
yeah,
black consciousness, and I
yeah,
think
but based on the
that's where the difference is. I think that what the individuality of black consciousness makes, it's connected to its history. It's what community means in black consciousness would be different than what community means in like Japanese consciousness, or in Chinese consciousness. What community means in black consciousness is highly connected with ancestry, is highly connected with like complex like land and trees and rituals that are not found in other types of consciousness. There are similarities, of
Mm,
course. We're all humans,
mm.
and there are similarities, but um, there are particular elements that make us African, or that make us black. That
No, I
is,
get you. I understand.
Yeah, I definitely can identify what you're saying, and I think our listener was it Richie At was also commented. Is it the collective individuality that builds the consciousness of a group or of a people? And I love how
No,
connected to. You don't think it does?
no, there's no. What is collective individuality? That's not. That's saying. That's what we call in. What isn't that a pleonasm in Dutch? Those are contradictory to each other. You can't put. It's like a white black
I think
collective individuality. There's no such thing as
it's
that.
more as us as individuals. If we do the work, this if we collectively do the same work as individuals, we will build this group mentality. Because
Hmm.
it's the same, like we all have to do the work separately in order to be a community. Because if we don't do the work
Mm.
separately, we cannot be a group.
Yeah, that a group is built of individuals. What a collective is an effort of individuals. That's true.
What I do
But
like um,
yeah.
about our current times that we're living in. Sorry, were you?
Oh
Did
no,
I?
no, no,
Okay. What I do
no.
like about this, and this is just coming from my experience in media and entertainment, having done research and written for several platforms
Mhm.
that empower African youth around the world. This was somewhat around 2011, but I was part of a team with different writers. You have South African, also from the diaspora from Ghana, and what you could see based on the articles that were written, the research that was done based on different topics, is that, in my own words, African Americans seem to be the most ignorant about, as where they come from all black people around the world. In my observation, I could talk to Afro Caribbeans, and they would somehow have a sense of the Africanness, whether that be some type of spirituality or some type of, okay, whether that be a cultural element, food or anything. But with
Mhm.
African Americans in general, for me, it looked like they were really lost. And I couldn't figure out whether it was because of the African American culture having developed so many facets of American culture as a whole. So they're part of it. Let me just put it that way. Music aspect, fashion aspect, language aspect. I thought maybe it's because that part is really heavy. And then I looked on the other side, and then I realized that they had no idea of where they were from, as in terms of maybe which tribe the ancestors was coming from, or maybe something explaining why they move the way they do, or why they talk the way they talk, as African. For me, that bit of knowledge was just, I would look at them and be like, oh my gosh, are you people that ignorant? So when the Black Panther bit came and a Black is King, the Beyonce thing is now coming along, I feel that, hey, they're somewhat being pushed to research more, to look up, some information about where they're from, maybe figure out some more about their ancestry and things, so that they could really come to terms with the fact that we're all Africans, all Black people Africans, in my observation. So that is something that I've observed, and I'm sort of concluding for now. One of
Mhm.
the developments within that experience is also that the word diaspora has
Mhm.
happened to have a stronger meaning throughout the years. I remember
Mhm.
writing about diaspora, what it means, the African diaspora, what are they defined as? Now, when you Google it, you'll find
Mhm.
that, okay, it relates to every person from African descent. So it includes the Afro-Brazilian, it includes the Afro-Caribbean, and it includes the Ghanaian that comes straight from the soil, you know.
Mhm.
So as the years develop, the word diaspora is really having a meaning specifically to diasporans, African diasporans. Let me just put it that way. I would really like to know from you two, what does this word mean to you? And what do you think it's doing for the unity of Black people globally?
I think we touched on this the first panel discussion that we had, right? With Liz as well
We did.
about the old
Is
African.
your take on that the same? If so, why not?
But Liz can go first.
I think it's the same. I think that because for me, when I talk about diaspora, I it's very technical, and maybe because I talk about it more in an academic sense. So I say
Yeah,
the continental diaspora, or I say like the American diaspora, or I say the European Afro-European diaspora. I'm specific because um, the experiences of these different regions is different.
yeah,
We're still part of the African diaspora, but in that there is these subcategories that are different. And again, for me, I don't think that acknowledging difference means that we're not united. I think if everybody gets to be who they are and everybody gets a space to say, "Oh, but I'm African American or I'm African Caribbean," in this African diasporan identity, I think that allows space for people to feel more connected. So I think it's the same. Like for me, all this the African diaspora is very complex, and there are different subcategories, but they're
yeah,
all still in this one um, category, and it depends on the person in there that would identify themselves with like that subcategory, or they would say like, no, I'm just part of the African diaspora. It doesn't that's It's not relevant. But for me, those different experiences um, need to be acknowledged.
yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So here's this
Um,
question about the diaspora.
mhm.
Let me ask you all this. The word diaspora becomes relevant when those in the diaspora connect with those back home in Africa, where the real impact is felt. So here comes the question. Is there anything any of you are busy with in Africa that you would like to share with us, and hopefully get partnership from other diasporans that would like to join that journey with you?
Yeah, we're trying to move back to Ghana. I don't know where Beach is located. Maybe you want to move back to Ghana with me. And the deadline is 3 years. So between now and 3 years, we're packing all our stuff, taking our wives and kids, taking our husbands and grandmothers, and we're moving back to Africa. And
Grandmother
that's,
too.
oh yeah, oh yeah. But mine is in Africa. So for me, it's a bit easier. But yeah, so if he's in on it, let's go. That's my plan. And that's what I'm doing relating to Africa.
What about yourself, Liz?
Yeah, for me it's a little bit more complex, but I am working on some because I believe that Africa is should be the center for blackness. So if there are issues, because I don't think everybody's going to go back to Africa, but
Yeah,
there are issues in the world for black people. Africa should be like, hey, let's step in. So for me, I'm thinking, or I'm in the progress of creating businesses that connect back to West Africa. I'm building a production company that is gonna start creating series about African heritage, about African spirituality, and how it connects back to the Caribbean. So
I
yeah,
love that.
it's gonna it's gonna connect back to the diaspora, but in a way that, and connect back to Africa in a way that reflects who I am. Well, because Africa is not just centralized in the continent, but it fluctuates in different
Yeah.
continents. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's the plan in 5 years. Maybe if I become very rich, I might join Donnie in Ghana and live there as well.
Uh,
I love
and
I love
just to go
that.
back on that African diaspora. So I looked
Sure.
up Google, and I think when you were talking, you said that you realized that African Americans were that diaspora were like ignorant to a and to a certain degree, and so the African diaspora definition or description given on Google says African diaspora is the term commonly used to describe the mass dispersion of peoples from Africa during the transatlantic slave trades from the
Mm,
1500s to the 1800s. This diaspora took millions of people from Western and Central Africa to different regions throughout the Americas and the Caribbean. This definition only
mhm.
gives you also an explanation of why they are so ignorant, right? Because that process of that transatlantic slave trade literally took away like everything that they knew, and it was systematically um, taken away from them. It wasn't, hey,
Mhm.
forget about it tomorrow. No, it was literally years, and whatever you practiced, you would be punished for it. So, it was
Right.
taken away from them. So, and a friend of mine also reminded me that, hey, you have to realize that the African diaspora, just as Liz is also stating, in the Americans is different than the African diasporas in Europe,
Mhm.
simply because their experiences or the process is different.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's this what I found on the African diaspora.
But I think the issue, just to add something else on the, because I think it's particularly the U.S. Americans. Because when
Mm,
I say Americas, I refer to the continent, because the U.S. tries to colonize, let's say, the Americas, but that's they don't. It's the Americas, the continent, right? But the
Right.
U.S. has this exceptionalism. I think South Africa has it too. That there is this ideology that U.S. or being from the U.S. is above everything, and I think that exceptionalism, which is like it's a theory of how people can that can erase a lot of cultural and elements of identity. Because even in people that experience that transatlantic slave trade, for example, in Brazil, Yoruba is one of the official languages in Brazil. There's in Suriname, there's a lot of traditions, Ghanaian heritage, and Surinamese culture. In Jamaica, there is people that identify with tribes in Ghana. But I think in the U.S. in particular, in Haiti as well, but in the U.S. in particular, is this exceptionalism that
Right.
this ideology that they're from the U.S. They're
mhm,
American, like America. That ideology erases any connection with everybody else, because it doesn't matter as long as you're from the U.S. and nothing else matters. And a lot
Yeah.
of people from the U.S., when they connect back to their blackness, they connected back to their enslaved ancestors. That's where it ends. That's the
Mhm.
beginning of their lineage. because they help build the United States. So they have the right to be in the United
To be
States.
part of that, yeah.
So they don't see themselves beyond that country, which is very limiting.
Yeah.
So that connects back to what Beyonce is doing in the American perspective. Even though it can open so many opportunities, if you have that mentality, that US mentality, that can limit how you connect with Africa, because you can just connect with it in a very superficial level. You don't see it as part of your identity, because identity begins and ends in the US.
That's a good perspective. That really brings it to light as to why it's like that, and how, in this case, entertainment might not be the whole solution, but it does contribute to bringing some type of awareness um, to this group of our fellow Africans, as I would say. So,
Mhm.
just a few minutes before we round up, to all of you listeners who would like to chip in with a comment or with a question, make sure that you do, because we will touch on that in a bit. So, before we round up, I would just really like to go back to this Black Lives Matters, and if we could conclude on some of action points that we could um, maybe implement to, either celebrate blackness uh, more, or define black excellence the more. And that is Black Lives Matters. One of the things I would really like to touch on is, after the whole demonstration and the things, I kind of sense, going about in different environments, some type of, I don't know if I should call it tension, but from non-Africans and relatively mostly Dutch people, kind of having some type of, not an issue, but somehow type of searching how they should define, Black people, and a lot of the things that they are now guilty of, kind of, handling the prejudice and all of that before. One of the things that I've seen a few major companies intentionally now hiring people of color for particular positions. And, some of the examples we making people of color now, chief executives. And another example is, for instance, that I think it was Serena Williams' husband actually stepping down from his position so that a person of color could be taken
Yeah.
on. Those are one of some of the examples or actions that have been implemented. I would really like to know from you, how has the experience been in your own environment? And do you think that some of these actions or measures, or whatever you want to call it, are going to be a part of solving the problems that a lot of us Black people face?
Um, well, personally, I haven't seen many. Let's say, I haven't felt any um
Okay.
changes around. I mean, people don't really. Well, depending on, I don't move around that, that much into different spaces. You can find me on the streets. I'm not in,
Okay.
high profile offices
Great.
where people would have to adjust or think about this whole movement as it became national, as it was in that
Yeah.
time. But with, let's say, with cases going on like that, Serena Williams husband, also offering his position from African American. These are individual efforts. These are individual efforts, that which is good, which is good that is happening. But these are not the things that will allow Black people to advance or to move forward, in society. Um, Companies having positions reserved for Blacks, specifically, or whatnot, that has been there for. I mean, it became popular, I think, 20 years ago or whatnot, where the society really pushed businesses to have diversification
Mhm.
programs, or to have multi. This is also a subject touched by Boosie, how
Mhm.
they have these programs within their corporations, that is trying to make, everything inclusive. So having actual Africans there, and to do it rather than before it was more the them themselves. So let's say the white people trying to be inclusive and including Africans based on their own judgments or their own preferences. So it has been there. I have followed up with the Black Lives Matter movement, like, that went on their website to see what are the real changes that have been coming out of these protests or these movements. Some of
Yeah.
them are they've been able to defund some police law enforcement bureaus in the states. I think legislation has been passed on the federal level that had to do with um, police, or I mean the law enforcement using certain tactics in apprehending the
Hmm.
arrestants, or let's say not using rear naked chokes or putting their knee on a civilian.
Hmm.
So those are actual things, rules, legislation that has been passed. So that is going on. But other than that, I haven't within here in the Netherlands. I haven't seen any real changes, or nor have I felt amongst my friends or at work any like they've been sensitive, or they no they it's like it didn't even happen as far as I've been aware of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I would agree that all these different things are very individualistic, that they benefit like individuals, like positions. I think Hulu removed one of the Girls episodes because they had like a face mask and it might be seen as blackface. Those things don't really add up to what Black Lives Matter in itself stands for, which is like political reform, especially in like safety and violence. um, what I've been following in the Netherlands was that while there was protests and while people were saying Black Lives Matters, there were um, policies going through in the Netherlands allowing for security and police, I think, to have more access to violence when arresting or when um, on the streets. So
Mm.
I think they were using a lot of individual things. Or let's just put Black Lives Matters on our Instagram page, or do this, hire this, in order to, not really do anything, put a facade so we can't really see that the institution is the same. Um, but I think in the idea of, for me, is this black community, and like having us creating institutions of safety, like what they were doing Black Lives Matter. There was sometimes there were certain men that would come with arms in the US and say like, we are going to protect these protesters. Or there was this woman that was being harassed at her house, um,
Right.
that people would come and say things and throw things, and these men would come all from all over the place to come and sit in front of her house to protect her house. um, and that's not what how it should be. Like, we pay taxes to have safety and from the state, but we have to create our communities, we have to create our spaces in order to find safety somewhere. So the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it should go on because these institutions should change because we are
Yeah.
part of this community. But we can't wait for them to change because they're not really changing. They're just dancing around saying like Black Lives Matter, but they're not really doing anything. So having like power in the sense of we have our own things, we have our own companies that we hire Black people.
Yeah.
We have our own safety companies. We have our own like self-defense companies. All these things can help to create like shift the way that power is um, divided in these communities.
Yeah. I would definitely agree. I would summarize that it's start working from let's start from ourselves. Really building those strong sense of whether there be economical institutions, companies, to really build ourselves before we're gonna wait on other people to do what they think is right, to change the environment that we are living in. I love that. I really love that. I could go on and on about that. I think an interesting take I had from some other people, they were like around their 50s, and they were like, listen, we have over the years seen many of these demonstrations, and what people should be conscious of, these were their words, is that, once you start destroying buildings and what's it called, statues and things, could lead to people in power that are actually behind the scenes to, put in measures that could really affect mainly Black people. For instance, the policymakers and people that are funding particular areas so that, less Black people live in that particular environment and things. And it kind of put things into perspective for me. I was like, yeah, you're right. If not to say demonstrating is wrong, but if we really want to think effectively, I think it's really good to think about how could we create income for each other, and how could we create ways where we're not waiting on others to approve who we are, which also, in my opinion, is where Black consciousness really comes in, because it then empowers you to really know the value that you should have, and also think of ways to collaborate so that we can empower our community, if you ask me. Some last comments from our favorite listener, who, by the way, I'm going to invite to come on the show. One next time, I should really invite it. Richie At, the Dutch take on the Black Lives Matter movement has been rather non-existent, and that's because they have managed to divide us in a way that a united front amongst Black people living in the Netherlands would be like you and I trying to climb the highest mountain on earth. And also another comment that was shared on the entertainment, when we talked about the impact of entertainment on, Black excellence and the overall image that we have of ourselves. I think entertainment missed its mark in re-identifying us, because it failed to address who we are as a people, and somewhat added to the generic stereotypes that white folks held. Conscious entertainment is what the new crop of African entertainers should be looking at, since it's rather ridiculous and sad to see a white person dance into our music or culture and still discriminate us when they see us in the street. That doesn't add up, because somehow we failed to use entertainment to act. I definitely understand where Richie is coming from. I think the most critical listener so far. Before we round up, we touched a bit on Black excellence. We touched a bit on what entertainment is doing for us. A bit, rewinding back to diaspora, Black consciousness. Do you have any last words for our fellow young people that are really looking and keen to start something? I know, Donnie, you want to return. Liz, you're starting your production company, which I think is awesome. Are there any last words of advice for any young person that, somehow trying to develop some type of idea to contribute to Black excellence, whether that be Pan-Africanism or unifying our community?
You can start,
Um,
Donnie.
it's tricky. It's very tricky.
It's tricky.
Um, yeah, I mean, for me, things become tricky again. I separate the individual from the collective. I separate the individualist from the nationalist.
That's
We are all
interesting.
individuals, but not all of us are nationalists, and not all of us will have a sense of nationalism, not even in Black consciousness. The fact that you become aware of your African heritage, does that mean you develop a love, and when I say love, I mean a sacrificial love
Mhm.
for your people? Not all of us have that, and for years I've been struggling with the fact that I held individuals to the standards of nationalists.
Mhm.
But I realized, or later on I found to understand that we're not all going to have the same level of love, discipline, constant focus, and patience for the sake of others. Perfect example, Paul. White supremacy or the system or the Americans or even Israel was not created by the people. It was
Mm,
created by a group, a hand group of nationalists or those who did and do have that love for whatever ideology they believed in, and made the necessary sacrifices to realize that. So yes, I encourage every individual to do, let's say, to do something relating to their community for Africans. However, I don't expect every individual to be able to let's say have that. Some people just want to live their life
mhm,
and still be black, right? But living your life and still being black is not what's going to make black rise. So you can have black empowerment, and that's for your individual self. That you know
mhm,
where you're from, you know where you're going to live. That's fine. You can navigate through this system here and as well as in Africa. However, in lifting the the being, or let's say the state of Africa globally, is not going to take individuals. It's going to take nationalists, those who do have the sacrificial love for their nation, those who will say that I am black and I'm proud. I will shop with Africans only. I'll not go to the supermarkets, but I will only go here and buy that. I might like the water at the supermarket better, but because I'm supporting a black business, I'm going to do that. That's a different kind of consciousness than the black consciousness that, hey, I'm African, I know where I'm from this tribe, this and that, and I'm still going to do this job. I'm still going to do live my life, and I'm still going to invest in Africa still, right? But
okay.
to bring Africa to that next level, it will take a different kind of love, the real actual love, if you would ask me, and not only for Africans, but actually that's the same love you should have for all other groups. So that's that humanitarian love that But it's a level you know, but we'll get there.
Okay. What about you, Liz?
I think I have a different perspective. Um, I the idea of nationalists. Okay, I don't really know how you define it, because like if I put my personal idea with nationality and what nationalism means for me, my nationality is Dutch, and I have no connection to a Dutch nationality as identity. So that has nothing to do with me. So I don't
You're
identify with this idea of nationality or nationalism being the root, the defining identity of how our politics. Like Africa, the nations were literally defined here in
was
Berlin. They drew lines and like
nationalism is in
separates. Like there was this saying of like um, married couple went to sleep one night, and when they woke up, one was in Benin, the other one was in Togo. Like it's this idea. Okay, but you probably have a different idea of
oh
nationalism.
yeah, yeah, I
But
do. I
I
do.
think so. That's why I want to move back to this idea of you have to have this sacrificial feeling. I don't agree in the sense that the African diaspora is the biggest diaspora in the world. We don't need a small group of people to reshape Africa. We have so many people. If 10% of these people, if 10% of these people can see like, oh, let me invest in land, or let me invest in holidays, or let me invest in whatever, let me just invest in Africa.
Right.
That
But
can
that's my point. Ten
can
percent is still 10 out of 100. That's
But then
still a
that's what
small
I'm saying.
proportion.
But then you're saying
Right.
they have to have this sacrificial identity. You don't have to. If we
No.
have this community, if we can shape, re-identify how we connect with blackness and how we connect with um Africa, if or we can have that community that grows And even if we have people that are contributing with a little bit, because we are so many people, we don't need that top-down approach. I think that if I come back to the question of what would I say to the youth,
Yeah.
I think that there is this sense that people want to own things, people want to create, people want this ability to be more than, oh, I just I'm working here, I have a house, I
Yeah.
have a car. It's nice, but once I've seen people sitting down having conversations with someone and talking about, oh, you can do this, you can create this, what do you think about that? And you can see that spark in their eyes of like, oh, you think I can do that? You think like my ability is capable of doing things like that? So I think having like reigniting that spark, saying like there is this space where you can think about redefining like you can be a contributor instead of being in Europe and being just someone that is like taking away their houses and their women or whatever. There is a space where you can help and build a community. You can build, you can be a builder, and reigniting that spark in
Yeah.
people, like maybe instead of just seeing like going to culture and music, maybe start looking at YouTube videos of people that moved from the diaspora to Africa, people that
Yeah.
started businesses, people that, there was this guy, he was Ghanaian and he created the biggest coal business in Ghana with some student loans. The idea of having these possibilities ignites something that allows people to do more.
Yeah.
And I believe in that bottom up perspective. I do not think that there is a selected group of people that is anointed by God or by whatever to make a difference. I think we all can, because we are so much and because we have this consciousness that connects us to our community, we can do a lot by doing a little. If, like, for example, a few months ago my family was like, oh, let's just have a family on vacation, let's go to Ghana. I went to Ghana 2 years ago for an internship. I was talking so much about Ghana. They're like, oh, it would be super dope to go to Ghana as a family vacation. Never in 2000 years I would have thought that would be possible. But the idea of us going to Ghana, having money to spend there,
Yeah.
maybe seeing like possibilities beyond what we've known, we've grown with, it allows us to us as individuals to grow our consciousness, but also connect us to our responsibility to do something, to
Yeah.
make things better and to see that we can. Because most of the people, young people, don't think they can. Most young people think that they just meant to just find a job and a wife and a house and that's it. But they don't know that they can do much more than that. So reigniting that feeling of you can do it, and that will change, revolutionizes what
Yeah.
Africa means to the diaspora.
I am so loving that. I side with that 100%. And also a last
Are
note
you
of
siding
comment
with her?
from. Are you siding? Are you siding with her, Donnie? Because I know
No,
you. You
no,
two.
I'm telling you. I know. I'm asking you. Are you siding with Liz on this one?
I am
Okay.
definitely. Also with this other commentator, and shout out to Gifty Amedi, who says, I think the hashtag Black Lives Matters movement has been there for a long time. The scale and the reach of the recent protest is one thing we haven't seen in the past. And I tend to disagree that the individual actions do not make impact. On the contrary, I think they do. Being aware and conscious of the existence of these things is where it starts. I would definitely connect that to, if by chance, any of our fellow Black people get to grace particular positions because of any action following this Black Lives Movement take place. I hope that Black people that become managing directors and so forth of companies that would probably never be treaded by Black people could also take a stand like one of our special guests, Busi Sazani, who is a leader of Uber Black, who said, don't tolerate being the only Black person
Right.
within major corporation. I think that if something like that could drive us, we could connect and open doors for others, whether that be our own companies for whether that be major corporate companies. And also another
Mhm.
shout out to Gift You said, question of whether it's enough or not is another discussion. In as much as we desire work towards systematic changes, transformation, I think we should encourage individual initiative. And on that note, I would definitely say that I would agree with Gifty and call this Let's Chat Africa a successful one. I wish I could go on and on, but I think Liz's mood of wiping, her face is the same. I can't wait to open this door here for some air to come through this room because it's hot here in the Netherlands, and it's going to continue
People,
on for the same week.
mm,
Um, First and foremost, I would really like to thank you, my fellow panelists. Nene couldn't join us. He had, I think he missed the dates as of today. But I think on our next one, I would really like to invite Richie AT. And I hear that Richie AT before on High Radio had this conscious radio show. That's why he's so passionate, about the topics that we get to touch. So we should definitely have him on board and make this,
yeah.
a 5-person discussion. I think me and Liz, as the only females, could take them on and, and tackle this discussion. But we're heading to 9:30. I would really like to thank you for joining me on, and hopefully, as the new season starts, we can continue on more on to talk about what's happening in the environment and
Mhm.
start on making change and actually implementing them. And more steps to take on. Liz with her company, Donnie with his major move on going back. I'm joining in with both of you.
Thank you for having us.
So all of you who just tuned in or earlier tuned in, thank you so much for listening. This was Africa on Focus. Next week we're having our last episode of the season. Palgrave Boache Dankwa from Kandifo Institute, who is uniting young people who really truly believes in youth leadership and shaping and connecting global Africans. We're gonna have him back again, and then we'll wrap it up for the season. I'm taking a rest. But in September, we'll be back to have very, very inspiring special guests to join us on Africa in Focus. If you missed an episode, you can always come back to the Facebook page, the YouTube page, and also catch us on all your streaming platforms because there we have Africa in Focus, the podcast, where a recap follows of every conversation that we have here on the show. Make sure that you also follow me on all social media. Are you two on social media? Donnie is undercover. Liz, can we follow you anywhere?
Yes, on my Instagram, Liz Camelia
Liz
on Instagram.
Camellia. I
You
love
guys can
that.
follow me. I'm gonna become more active now for sure.
Yeah, you
And then
should, especially with your production company. You
exactly.
should get it on Twitter, Patreon. You should
Yeah,
invite people to be part of the movement.
yeah, exactly.
Looking
That's
forward to
the
that.
plan.
Thank you very much, and have a blessed hot summer week. And then we'll be joining on next time. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.